So, it's with heavy heart that I tell you that Overwatch 1 is gone. The game that kind of became a standard in esports competition and redefined team based shooters for a generation of gaming fans has been wiped off the face of the earth,
Man,
never to be played again.
I remember when that game first came out, it was so huge. Like, it was
Oh, it's still huge when they
huge.
killed it. When
Yeah.
the inevitable sequel was first announced, the impact it would have on the first game was not fully understood. If you're
hmm
like me, you probably assumed that these titles would peacefully coexist next to each other for a very
Just
long
like they
time to
always
come.
do. Yeah. I mean, sequels are pretty standard stuff in
Yeah,
video games, right? And while they may result in
limits of it.
splitting the audience, most gaming studios tend to permit both their original and newest titles to coexist,
Sure.
allowing the audience to choose how and where they want to participate.
Gamers who loved the first Overwatch could try the new experience that was being offered. If they weren't a fan of the changes that were made, they could always go back to the original. Everybody wins, right?
Right?
But
Just like it's
considering
always
that both
been.
games do feature different team-based playstyles, one's 5-on-5, the other was 6-on-6, you could argue they really aren't the same gaming experience. And if you were the sixth best player on your previous Overwatch team, this new 5-on-5 style of play might have you on the outside looking in. But the decision that was made by the developer is final. Overwatch 2 is not simply a new experience in the Overwatch universe, it is replacing it. Overwatch as we knew it is gone. Long live Overwatch 2.
Letting go of games isn't always easy, especially when it is a game that you've played for a really long time. Even with all its imperfections, Overwatch found a path to success by continuing to add new content, listening to players' feedback, and building a community to support this new franchise amidst very stiff competition.
Sure. But this was all merely for the purpose of building a structure that would eventually
Mhm.
house an entirely new experience. One that was not only built to improve on its predecessor, but to take its place. And
Mhm.
while this is a hard decision for everyone who has played and followed Overwatch and invested money into it over the years, the truth is we have all observed what happens when a developer allows the old to exist alongside the new in other titles, especially in online based games. The original title ceases receiving consistent support and updates from the developer. The communities tend to get split into two distinct and often very toxic fan bases who constantly argue over which title is better. And the original, like Titanfall is a great example, becomes a free for all war zone for cheaters who ruin the experience for those remaining players.
As difficult as this may be for the most passionate Overwatch players to accept, perhaps closing down the servers was a kindness, preventing the game from degenerating into an unrecognizable nightmare.
Sure, the inherent challenge with all new things is that whether we like it or not, they were designed to replace something. And our fondness or familiarity with the original version of these things can make it hard to let go of them. From adjusting to a new place to live, a new career, new responsibilities, or less desired changes like coping with a new normal after you experienced a heartbreaking loss. Accepting and embracing change is at the core of the human experience. Entire genres of books and a plethora of motivational speakers exist solely to help guide others through the inevitable changes that we'll all experience in life, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
If you are struggling with changes that are affecting you across multiple battlefronts in life, you are certainly not alone. We are hardwired to resist what we do not appreciate or understand, and as a result, many times we are guilty of trying to keep the old right next to the new, a best of both worlds approach.
And the place where most of us struggle with the most with this is how we process these changes at the spiritual level. What we may perceive as merely a surface level or external change is actually a larger part of how the Lord is growing us and shifting us into something new on the inside. In my personal experiences, I found myself trying to have it both ways, similar to the Overwatch conundrum. I wanted to embrace all the new and incredible promises I was hearing about having a relationship with Christ, the love, the joy, the peace, the guidance, the protection. That all sounds great. But I also wanted to keep all the parts of my life that were incongruent with his teachings. Kind of like if you have an item of clothing that requires a patch. I possessed holes all over in my life that only the Lord could fill. But I didn't want to let go of that old garment that I was familiar with so he could give me a new one. I just wanted him to, patch me up, fix all my problems, bring me joy and peace without giving him full control of the parts of my life that were causing me all that sadness and pain. I wanted him to let me keep living my life on my own terms, but still experience all the benefits of a life lived in submission to him. And those two concepts, like Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2, simply cannot coexist.
Christ did not come to simply fill in the gaps we have in our lives or patch up our broken hearts. Sorry. He came to replace all that we previously possessed with something completely new. This is a full system overwrite. The old servers must be completely shut down to allow a new operating system to take its place.
It's a hard thing to hear, but we cannot simply add Christian philosophy to our worldview like it's some kind of garnish to a meal. He came to make us an entirely new creation from the ground up. We can't just sprinkle a little Jesus into our homes and hope that our relationships supernaturally improve. He has to be firmly placed as the foundation of every aspect of our lives if we want to reap the benefits of a life blessed by him. And as we face new challenges and absorb the changes that those bring, the truth about what these paradigm shifts in our lives represent finally comes into focus. Like Christ's new wine into old wineskin analogy, we lack the fundamental capacity to handle what the future holds for us if we try to absorb it with our old ways of acting and thinking.
The ability to go to the new places he has for us involves more than just pouring new things into us. He changes the vessel so we can handle the new things he is placing inside of us. When we experience changes in life that challenge us to grow into new places that are uncomfortable and unfamiliar, these are not merely superficial changes that impact where we live, work, go to school, or interact with. He is using these experiences to increase our reliance on him and disconnect us from that obsolete version of ourselves that is not designed or prepared to function in the places we are going to next.
If we're being honest with ourselves, change is something we tend to appreciate when it brings us something we want.
Yeah.
But we often struggle with accepting what it asks for us in return. As gamers, we're greatly receiving Overwatch 2 as a new free-to-play experience. You only have to pay to play it. But we are being forced to give up Overwatch 1 and everything it represented and everything we've invested into it in exchange. And the truth is, we have very limited choice in the matter. Overwatch 1, as we knew, it's gone. It's over. No matter what we choose to do next, the only choice that remains to us is what we decide to do with this permanent disruption. And the same is true of the changes we experience in our real-world lives. Whether the changes we're facing are entirely unwanted or something that we desired, they're happening anyways.
They are inevitable. The only part we choose is whether we allow these changes to press us deeper into our relationship with the Lord and increase his control of our lives, or stubbornly place that obsolete Overwatch 1 disc into our drive tray in a vain attempt to relive an experience that now resides permanently in our past.
Not every change we experience in life is from the Lord, but he will use every change we experience in life to grow us in our knowledge of him, to develop us, and to bring us to the places that we were destined to occupy. When we invite Christ into our lives, it's not simply a supplemental process that adds to him to whatever we previously were. He takes who we were and transforms us into something entirely new, leaving no room for the old, because the places we are going next will require that transformation in order to survive.
He doesn't merely patch up the battle-damaged clothing on his hurting children. He gives us an entirely new outfit that matches the fullness of the destiny that lies before us.
There isn't a patch that's going to bring Overwatch 1 into our future. It has been replaced by Overwatch 2 with finality.
But it is the Lord's mercy and grace that uses these changes to press us forward to the places that we wouldn't have willingly embraced on our own. Because it is only in these new and unfamiliar environments that we learn to stop applying temporary patches to our lives that cannot grow with us into who we are becoming in him. Let's let go of those things that don't belong in our future, even if they were familiar and comfortable.
We can't accept the new benefits that these changes offer until we release that which we cannot hold on to anyways. So let's release that old Overwatch that we have been clinging to once and for all. The Lord has something new and better for us, not just an upgraded experience, but a whole new way of living that revolves around our complete and utter dependence on Him. And it is only in this new place that we realize these changes, they aren't happening to us. They're happening for us, so we can allow Him to grow in us.
When we find ourselves in a state of change and are trying to reconcile who we were with what this situation is requiring of us, let's seek what the Lord is trying to change in us, not around us. Even the best heroes answer to the call of their developer, as these changes completely transform them for their next experience, serving a unique role that can only be achieved when they allow their creator to fully rewrite them into the masterpieces that they were designed to be.